Welcome to Beers BBQ. This week, I'm making smoke-fried pork chops, and I'm drinking Great Basin's Ichthyosaurus IPA.
Silver State, Nevada boy. Silver State, Nevada boy. Yeah, Silver State, Nevada boy.
Alright, so get your wood chips soaking a couple hours ahead of time. We've got 1-inch thick cut boneless pork chops that we've soaked overnight in buttermilk, just like we did with the chicken, if you remember when we did the smoke-fried chicken. And then you'll need your Beers and barbecue rub. We're not going to use a whole lot, just give them a nice little season, and then we're going to get them on the smoker. As you can see, I'm not putting a whole lot on there. We don't want it to overpower. There's going to be a lot of flavors going on with the fry batter, the smoke, the pork chop itself, and then obviously the Beers and barbecue seasoning, or the rub. And once you get these seasoned, we'll go get the smoke going in the grill, and we'll get them on. All right, so once you get your smoker up to 250, go ahead and get your wood chips on, get it smoking, and then we'll get the pork chops on. Once your pork chops are up to 165 degrees internal temperature, go ahead and get them off the smoker, and then we'll bring them in. We're making the same batter we did when we did the smoked fried chicken, so go back, watch the smoked fried chicken episode, and check out what batter we're using. And then all you're going to do is take the chop, dip it in the wet mix, dip it in the dry mix, throw it in the deep fryer. Then what we'll do is we're going to deep fry these at about 365, and we're going to do them for roughly 3 to 5 minutes.
I'm from that big city, Guadalajara, Jalisco. My place of birth, I represent it for my people. That's where it started, you could call it ground zero. And when I was 2 years old, immigrated up to Reno. We slid into Nevada head first like Pete Rose. A perfect destination for this alien to be home.
Welcome back to Beers BBQ. This week we've got Randy Lenz here. He's our guest. He does a really cool thing for kids in the community. He builds bicycles out of parts, and takes bikes and rehabs them, and he gives them to kids that normally can't afford a bike, or their parents can't afford a bike for them. So Randy's here today, and he's not looking so much for a bike or anything, but maybe some spare parts that you might have laying around in your garage, or maybe even a little donation. So, Randy, how long have you been doing the bike thing?
My wife and I have been doing it about 7 years. I got into it. A kid needed a bike. I happened to just run across the bike. It needed some work. I put it together, gave it to the kid, saw the smile on his face, and pretty much I was hooked from that point, man. It was just the whole ambiance that the kid had. It was probably one of the best things that had ever happened to him. And it was just a high for me, a high for my wife, and we've just been running with it ever since.
That's awesome. And normally, how many bikes do you do per year? I mean, because you don't just do it at Christmas. I mean, you do it pretty much year round. But
we try year round. Depends on what I've got going. My wife and I also do wildlife rescue, and we do other things also. So our time is spread out big time between all of our little side projects, and we do all this with our own cash and our own sole support. And usually we try to get about 3 or 4 bikes a year. I'll be lucky to get 3 this year, but the bikes we're given are excellent bikes. They're not going to fall apart once the kids get them, and that's the main thing. It's there's a bike, you can get them. You don't have to worry about the kid having it go south on them.
Now, when you're doing these bikes, what's the most sought after part that you're looking for? That way, if somebody sees this and says
tires, because they go bad. You can always get rims and stuff, or true the rims, which I will do at work. You guys have seen me do that, but it's mostly any of the rubber parts, seats, tires, pedals. That's another one, but tires, they just go bad. The bike we brought today, is almost there. All I need is one more pedal in it, and it's ready to go. So
Yeah, I mean, you can see that there's one pedal that's snapped off a bit, but
Right.
if you're watching this and you see Randy's doing great stuff in the community for kids that need bikes. I mean, every kid should have a bike. Help them out. If you've got a pedal or you've got a chain, or hell, if you got some handles or grips, or anything you got that you don't mind, it's just laying around your garage, pass it on. Help Randy out. I mean, and
well, you just don't have to help me out. I mean, you can do this yourself, and the high you get off of just helping the kids in the community is definitely worth anything that you're going to go through. And sometimes, yeah, it gets a little frustrating, but when you see the look on a kid's face, or sometimes we'll drop them off at the fire station, and we don't get to see the end product of the bike actually being given to the child, but somewhere out there a kid's getting it, and they're going to be ecstatic about it. And I think that's the whole thing. Is just the whole thing is just passing on what you've got, paying it forward. Because on my whole path through my whole life, I've had people that had my back, and all they asked for is that I pay it forward. I'm just paying it forward and paying what was given me.
now, how long have you been doing the wildlife rescue?
About 15 years, but actually it's been like my whole life. But now I've been in with the Department of Wildlife. Mostly the game warden, Mike McCusker's a huge guy down there and helped me out a lot of times. And he also the one that calls up and says, hey, can you take this? And so my wife and I do it. It's just giving back to the community. And there's nothing better that you can do. And most people are wondering, what's life giving us and what are you giving back to that? And progressing people forward. It's like the kids that work for us. I don't expect them to stay with me till they die. They've got other things that they're working on. And God, it's my job to push them onto that, even if it isn't doing glass.
And for all of you that don't know, Randy and I work together at Bright Glass. And I've known Randy for pretty close to 20 years. And Randy's always been like this. This is just who Randy is. So it was just important that, we get him on the show and kind of showcase what he does as a human being, because he's given back to the community, not only in bikes, but in wildlife rescue or animal rescue. And I mean...
Well, you try to do one good thing every day for your fellow man. Like there's times I've gone into 7-Eleven, the guy in front of me didn't have enough change for coffee. I've bought his coffee. And it's just paying it forward. Being a great person doesn't just happen when somebody's watching you. You got to do it all the time. And the more you produce and project forward, the further everything goes. It doesn't just stop there. It's just a great way to get a hold of the people in your realm and show them that you appreciate it. And that's it.
So let's roll back to the animal rescue. What do you take in mostly?
I strictly stay to birds. I know birds of prey, and I know wild or waterfowl. Birds have a built-in expiration date. As soon as they can fly and take care of themselves, you can let them go. If you get rabbits, cute and cuddly, and you have a wife like mine, the next thing you know, you've got it, and it's 2 years old, and you're banking on it going to college. So you try to stay away from cute and cuddly. Get stuff that you can get rid of real quick. So
right, that makes sense. How many hawks do you have right now? Because you're a hawk guy. You're a falconer. So
I have 2 at home right now, but I always take in a couple during the year,
right.
And I bring them to work with me, and it kind of flips people out when they first see it, especially the new hires that come in. They're like, "You got a hawk here," and then the more they see what I do, and then I've had them call me up. They're out on a job site, and they go, "Hey, I got a picture of this hawk. What is it?" And it's really a great thing, because all of a sudden I've enlightened them into what's out in the wild here in Nevada and around them. And
something that wouldn't notice.
Yeah,
otherwise.
they don't. And a lot of people they see it and they're just all of a sudden turned on, and it's great to see their excitement when they come back from a job going, "Oh, I saw this bird and it was fluttering like this, and all of a sudden it went down and got something." and just the excitement on their face that I've enlightened a world of wildlife into them, and now they're thinking, wildlife all the time.
How long have you been in falconry?
About 45 years.
Okay. Now, not to age you, but how old were you when you started?
I was 11.
11 years old. And what got you into falconry? I mean, what was...
there was a book called My Side of the Mountain. I read the book. I got hooked. I was done.
So what was in the book that made you...
A kid goes to live in upper state New York, goes to live off the land, and in part of the book, he obtains a peregrine falcon, and I watched this. The movie came out when I was about 8, and I saw this, and I knew I wanted to be a falconer. It was just who I am, part of my MO, basically, and I've been doing it ever since.
When did you get your first bird?
I was 11.
You were 11 when you got your first bird, and what was it?
It was a little male kestrel, about this big.
I love those little kestrels, man.
Cool.
They're
great.
Every time you have one,
I know, you bring them into work and everybody goes, "Oh, they're so cool. They're like parrots that eat meat." Yeah, they're pretty cool. Yeah.
Now, the hawks that you have now, what do you have?
I have 2 Harris hawks out of Arizona. One was a captive bred by a buddy of mine, Steve Watson. The other one I went down and actually trapped in Arizona. And you think, oh, you're trapping birds and taking them out of the wild. Well, 80% of them died their first year. So if you're taking one out of the wild because of what you're doing, you're giving it a place to live, to progress, to be fed every time. All you're doing is you're making it a year better. Most of the time, most guys take a bird out of the wild, they keep it for a year, kick it loose the next year, and it's just that much better when it goes back out into the wild. But sometimes you keep them. I mean, you get a bird that you connect with, and you keep it forever and ever. Well, not forever and ever, but for 20 years, and they don't last that long in the wild. Not the smaller birds. Eagles, you can get up to 35, 40 years, but...
So you're giving them an extended life.
Basically, yeah. And all you're doing is making them 1 year better. So when you do release them out there, they're all ready to rock and roll.
And it's not that you're, keeping them in a cage and just looking at them and screwing around with them. I mean, you're taking them out and flying them and letting them hunt.
No, you've got so much time involved with them. I've seen guys get divorced over flying birds. I mean, they just get into it and get so tuned and so entwined into it. It takes over your life, and you really have to watch what happens.
Yeah, and what's the longest you've ever had a bird?
Wow. Well, it was crow, that last Harris hawk I had. Somebody shot him out from underneath me. I had him for 8 years. He was a captive bred bird. But yeah, all kinds of things can befall him in nature, and I lost this bird up the street from where I lived, and I guess he flew into the neighborhood and somebody shot him, and then he ended up going to the vet. The vet called me because I have a tag on him. I went to pick him up, and I noticed one leg was hanging, and I was like, he's got something wrong with him. They tried to put him under so we could x-ray the leg, and as soon as they hit him to put him under, he just died. And it's real common that these birds are so finicky, and when you do have them put under, a lot of times that's it. Their road's gone. It's horrible. But yeah, it happens, so I try to tell people, they're birds of prey, and they aren't just as mindless hunters, and they just kill everything. A lot of pigeon fanciers hate them, and I can totally agree with them. But that's no reason to dust them off. They'll trap them in there and kill them when they're in their pens. But I've got buddies of mine. I have pigeons myself. And what I'll do is generally grab them, scare the hell out of them when you grab them, and then drive them somewhere and then let them go. And they rarely come back. But, some people don't have that opportunity, to where they can grab them and then drive off, 30, 40 miles out and let them go.
Right. Well, we kind of got off track a little bit on the bikes.
Just a tad.
But that's okay. I wanted to tell your story. That's great. So, if you have any bike parts or any bikes that need rehab and you want to give them to Randy, go ahead and get a hold of me, or I'm going to put Randy's Facebook link on the YouTube page. Get a hold of him directly. And he said he wants to do 3 bikes this year. That's great. He needs a little help. Shoot him some parts. Say, hey, I got some parts for you for a bike. Or if you're a bike shop and you want to donate bike parts, tires, seats, whatever, get a hold of me. Get a hold of Randy. Get a hold of us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Just get a hold of us and we'll get Randy squared away. And appreciate you coming over, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Beers and Barbecue. Today we got Randy here and Alex Tyler. And apparently it's a Bright Glass Auto Department reunion at the Stone household. So let's get after these smoke fried pork chops. Let's see what's up. Oh yeah.
That's pretty unbelievable.
Thanks for the Icky, Great Basin, amazing, and we'll see you next week.
Never forget where I'm from. To everywhere I lived, I give love. I live that new kind of life. Nevada's where I planted my roots. It's where I learned to make a living and I lace my way boots.
Yeah, I'm from that hotel city where no one ever made it. That place you go to get faded with